You're listening to The Big Lift, the podcast of WebTrends Optimize, the CRO solution that enables marketers and developers to maximize the ROI on their digital properties. WebTrends Optimize is a powerful, feature-rich and easy-to-use solution, all delivered within a fixed-price contract with no additional cost for increased functionality ever. During these podcasts, we meet some of the key influencers within the marketing and conversion world to understand their roles and examine their challenges. In this podcast, we try to answer the tricky question that many a CRO consultant is asked. How can I provide the value of testing without having to employ a full-time analyst? So today, I'm joined by Jake Lambert, Head of Conversion Services at experience-led digital marketing agency FreshEgg, who will provide insight into proving the effectiveness of testing with their performance guarantee. Jake, you've been in the optimization or testing business for over 10 years. How have you seen the market mature during that time?
I think the biggest thing for maturity has been awareness of CRO and testing. When I first started, it was kind of the hot new product, or not even a product, but practice to hopefully make a bit of revenue off the side. You still had the likes of Amazon leading the way, which is still the case, but not a lot of people were actually doing any experimentation or any testing at all. There's still a lot of immaturity around, particularly people just getting started or who haven't tested at all. But there's a lot more who have started that journey and are waking up to the value that it can drive for a business. So it's definitely matured over the past 10 years, primarily in just awareness that people need to do things. But yeah, a bit of a step back as Google Optimize went, which made the barrier to entry really, really low. That getting started bit has almost dipped a little bit for maturity wise for people who were doing some testing and now not doing any. And now we're starting to see it come up again, being like, oh, actually, we really missed this. And we need to know the answers from there. So yeah, I'd say definitely matured, but there's still a long way to go for it to be kind of a big way of making decisions, not just on your website, but overall as a business.
Do you think it's matured, I would say, at the tactical level, or has it matured at the strategic level? So are VPs of marketing and people like that, have they got testing on their agenda?
Oh, a bit of both. Some do. Some, like startups in particular, are really going down the test everything experimentation route, which I think is a really good way to go, and shows a real good level of experimentation maturity to actually try and build a business that way once you've got decent sample sizes and you're able to do so. But there's still a lot of tactical elements to it where we might run a few tests in silo and try and figure out a couple of answers, but actually we're still going to run our business base of a spreadsheet and how we've always done it. And we're going to lean on this Excel sheet and go from there. But yeah, I'd say a bit of both on the strategic and the tactical front. Often we see we're trying to move businesses from tactical to strategic experimentation. And there's still a bit of a line in the sand between companies that are willing to do that and go strategic and companies that are still doing the odd test, the odd experiment, seeing some value, but is not being a core driver for their business. And there's a big difference in growth rates for those that are doing it strategically and those who aren't, with those who are testing a lot, growing a lot faster because they're making better decisions and they're getting to the right answer a lot quicker.
I still feel that it's not necessarily up there with PPC or Google AdWords or whatever when it comes to these are the things we've got to do. I feel it's probably down the list of all those sorts of things because of the ROI that many people perceive. But I think it's definitely gained a lot of momentum over those 10 years. I've been with the market just over 10 years now. I've found it much more mature, much more open conversations about testing rather than, oh, what is it? Or I'm not quite sure, and things like that. So where do you see the opportunities for growth within your own business?
No, I completely agree with that PPC point. It's definitely there. In terms of our own business, we're a full service agency. So we not only do CRO, but we do SEO, we do analytics, we do web builds. And I think the big growth spots is kind of in a couple of areas. In CRO specifically, it's enabling businesses to embed those practices and see the value of experimentation and what it can drive not as a channel, because it's not a channel, but just as a method of making decisions and making the right decisions and the value that that brings. I think as an agency, we're doing some exciting things around AI. We've got a whole host of data on experiments at work, case studies, research papers, the whole lot, and actually being able to analyse changes that are happening within certain industries, and whether that's the result of experiments that maybe even we're not running, tying that with our data and our research to be able to see where the market's shifting to in ways that we wouldn't have been able to do before without AI, in particular in terms of speed of efficiency and analysing a whole breadth of websites, combining that with data to make recommendations, which can then be vetted by experts within our CRO team itself. And then we're seeing a lot of movement as well in terms of, we don't do PPC, but Google are having ever rising costs, and actually landing pages need to perform better, funnels need to perform better in order to justify those costs for the likes of PPC. So we're working with teams to enable that, but also combining that with our strengthening SEO, so that how can we get more traffic organically, which can then convert better through CRO practices. What can we learn through analytics, and combining that with the latest tech, so that it all comes together in terms of one efficient process for users, of which hopefully experimentation can be at the core of, so that we're making the right decisions from there. So yeah, that whole embedded process, alongside our capabilities in AI, alongside being able to demonstrate the value of CRO, they're kind of the three core areas where I think there's going to be massive growth for Fresh Egg in this space.
I think there's an opportunity for a whole podcast around AI and CRO and how it works together and could benefit organisations, but that'll be for another day, not today. Some of the companies that are, how would you describe them, smaller, less established, do you think that testing's on their agenda, or is it still the bigger SMEs and things like that are looking at it first?
It's definitely growing on their agenda, particularly as all other costs are rising, and they still have targets to meet, and they still need to be able to make revenue, and it's a lever that a lot of them might not have pulled before. So making that awareness and saying, providing they're big enough to support testing and for it to be a profitable enterprise for them, we're seeing more and more those smaller businesses actually say, okay, what can CRO drive for me? How can it help my business hit the targets that we're trying to hit, but also promote learning around the industry or around our company, full stop. So yeah, we are seeing that these SMEs, we're having more and more conversations with to say, actually, we do think there's a big opportunity and a lever that you haven't pulled here in terms of CRO, because you can't just keep pouring money into Google. It's a lot of them are getting squeezed quite tightly for costs. So yeah, it's something that a lot of them haven't explored yet, but it's definitely for them, and it's worth exploring to say, actually, is this a viable route for me to make long-term strategic decisions which will bring profitable revenue impact?
I think we've kind of briefly discussed on CRO versus Google, or PPC, I should say. But one of the things I think is in my head, and I'm not sure how true it is, but I think that many companies are cautious of the value of CRO or testing and find it difficult to make that initial investment into a solution that's sometimes challenging to see an ROI. Would you agree?
We do see that in terms of companies need to be brought round for how they can actually measure it, because PPC's been around so long and everyone sees ROAS, and using that comparison, they're very, very used to, okay, I pour X amount of money in, I get X amount of money back. I'm very happy with that. And it's hard to make a comparison because CRO isn't a channel, it's not on the same stream, but you are competing for similar budgets. So we are at Fresh Egg having to make sure that our clients and our prospects understand what kind of value that CRO can bring, not just in the short term, but in the long term, particularly with producing forecasts based off all of the data that we have. So we know what win rate we're going to expect, how many experiments we're going to run, what the average uplift of winners are going to be. And combining that with a client's data, we can produce a forecast to say that we estimate that CRO will provide this amount of revenue. And then as we go, because CRO is testing, it's very, very measurable. It's all measured in uplifts on your core KPIs. you can actually prove the value using those uplifts against the same data that you forecast from.
Now, I think Fresh Egg has introduced something to help organisations who may have been using CRO but found it not particularly beneficial, or companies that are first entering into it. And this is what you call the performance guarantee. So what exactly is it? Yes, exactly that. It's quite exciting for us to have launched this. But essentially what it is there's a lot of... I think the term snake oil salesman is going around on LinkedIn, which is a bit harsh, but there's a lot of people that will say CRO is going to drive you millions and going to be the next best thing. And then they don't back up those claims themselves. So the performance guarantee that we've launched, it works on a forecasting method, as I've just explained. We forecast what value we think CRO will drive, and then we guarantee it. So we say over 12 months, CRO we think will drive a minimum of X. In order to be on track with that on your program, after 4 months you should be on at least Y. And what we do, both Fresh Egg and vendors such as yourselves, you back it up as WebTrends Optimize. You will then say, okay, we will co-invest in the program because we are convinced that this will work. So we run at half price at a cost to our business over those 4 months to prove that we will hit the numbers that we say we will in terms of winning experiments and the total uplift provided. If we don't hit that, you can walk away. You've got a lot of insight, a lot of research that goes into a program, a whole backlog that you can take away on a program that's been running at half price for 4 months. But if we are true to our word, we've proven that CRO is profitable based off the forecast and based off the observed data that we have, and we'll roll into the full 12-month contract at full cost, which then has already paid for itself in the most times in terms of the uplift that we drive over those first 4 months itself. So it's a nice way to hold us to account to our numbers that we forecast and that we say we're going to drive, but also be able to, I don't like the word dip your toe into, or the phrase dip your toe into CRO, but to go down that route. It's catchy anyway.
Yeah. And you get that risk mitigation piece with a performance guarantee where you don't need to fully cost in and jump into what can be expensive programs because of the amount of resource that needs to go into it. But you can go into a testing program safe in the knowledge that actually if you're after revenue gains, we're going to drive that and we will guarantee that and co-invest in that.
So you talk about revenue gains as opposed to conversion gains. Is that the usual way that you tie success?
Usually, yes, because it comes back to revenue for the vast majority of our clients. In the end, they're paying in money, pounds and pence, so they want to see the value in pounds and pence as well. So what we do is measure that always to the final conversion. So it's always sales, using retail as an example. It'll always be the final sale, and it'll be conversion uplift at sale. We won't be looking at add to basket as our final metric, for example, or page progression. We'll be looking at the thing that actually matters and measuring our success based off that, as well as any statistically significant AOV lifts if they occur.
So with anything like, and I won't use the word free trial because it's not, because it's a paid trial, there's got to be some kind of caveats such as dedicated resource at their end or dedicated hours they've got to deliver to this. And similar from your side, do people have that resource, or is it that you can do the whole lot?
Yeah, so the big thing with the guarantee is that we will take everything off your hands as a client. So the things that we need is essentially sign off for our experimentation concepts. They're the big ones, and then user acceptance testing at the end just to make sure that you're happy with things going live. But in terms of everything else, we do the fully managed service. So we do the research that goes into it. We do the ideation, designs, the development, the QA. We put things live. We do the analysis. The whole lot sits on us as an agency to do so. And all we need from you is a check that we're not going completely against your brand guidelines and that we're not breaking anything and that you're happy for things to go live, which is kind of best practice at user acceptance testing. Obviously, we do a full QAR side, but it can be pretty hands-off for a client themselves. We do a weekly status call just to make sure that everyone involved knows what's going on. But yeah, after that initial onboarding piece of getting tags live and things like that, clients can be pretty hands off. And that's the thing with the performance guarantee, is that in order to guarantee performance, we as an agency need to be in control of that performance. So we take full responsibility and ownership over the strategy. And we need to take full ownership over that so that we can get the uplifts that we recommend. So we will take more control than potentially a more collaborative program. Not to say that we can't be collaborative, but for a guarantee, we need to say that these are the experiments that we think are going to create the uplift. Is there anything legal or compliance-wise that are blocking these, or are they completely against your brand guidelines? If the answer to those things is that we can go ahead, then great, and we will proceed with the experiments themselves. So it actually takes a lot more off of the client in terms of the resource needed at their end than a more collaborative program, which obviously if we're coming up with ideas together or we're running concepts that the client might want to run, absolutely fine, and some of them will be great, and some of those collaborative programs will be really successful, but we obviously can't guarantee the success of ideas and concepts that aren't ours. So that's where we would work in a traditional sense rather than in a performance guarantee sense. But within a performance guarantee, be really successful for the obvious reasons. It mitigates a lot of risk.
There's a lot of trust from the client then in this aspect, because obviously if it's your ideas that are coming through and your suggestions and your kind of testing, they must feel, or they should need to feel comfortable in being able to bring you guys on board. Do you ever find resistance in that?
I think because of the guarantee element, it takes a lot of the resistance out of it. So when we initially talk to prospects and we put a forecast together for them, we're able to say, look, this is the value that we think we can drive. We will guarantee this amount. And also we will present some initial concepts so they can see our way of thinking. So we'll go, here's some of the concepts we're thinking of running early. So before they sign, they do get a flavour of how we work. And we can show, okay, here's how we do research. This is the research that we've already done. This is the research that we're thinking of doing to answer these questions. This is how the research forms a strategy. So we kind of overcome a lot of those trust hurdles or potential barriers at the start before signature, so they can see, okay, actually, yeah, these are the types of things that these guys are thinking that aligns with our thinking, or I haven't thought about that. That'd be interesting to know. And by the way, we think we were able to drive you this massive amount of revenue based off this forecast and this measurement framework. So yeah, it kind of overcomes that barrier at that point.
Do you use the same kind of uplift goals with every client, or is every client different?
So it's all based off their data and their success metrics. So every client will have a different forecast because their underlying data is different and the opportunity is different based off it. Obviously, we're guaranteeing this and we're losing quite a substantial amount of revenue in those early 4 months as an agency. So we need to make sure that we're able to achieve it, and we need to make sure that it's commercially viable for our clients as well as us as an agency. So we need to be able to hit those guarantees. So each of them will be different based off the size of the opportunities that are there, the industry that they're in. We see different average uplifts for different industries. We tend to have a pretty good win rate across industries, which is nice. For example, in finance and insurance, we've got a whole host of case studies, some award-winning experiments within there. So we know that our average uplift for those is just under 5% for winning experiments for those clients. So we can use that as a basis for our forecasts. But yeah, it will change for each potential client because it needs to be relevant to them and the opportunity that's there, and the underlying data that it's based off of will change because obviously everyone's different.
So I can see this working with a e-commerce site or a B2C site. Presumably, or I'll ask the question, do you use it for B2B clients as well?
We do. Yeah, we absolutely do. It all depends on what their success metrics are. For example, we had a B2B accountancy firm that offer products through their website for both self-service and managed service on their side. It all uses the same methodology in terms of what is your success metric. If we can't put a monetary value to it, we might just say X amount of leads or X amount of final sales. We'll work that out and work with the potential client to say, okay, we think we can drive X based off whatever your success metric is, and we'll guarantee that. So yeah, it certainly does work for anyone that has a success metric that they're trying to drive through their website. It certainly does work for those. It just may be that the ROI might not be in a monetary value, because that might not make sense to your business. We have a car leasing firm that works with leads, and then we put a value to those leads, but our success metric is leads for them, and then they convert them offline themselves. So we're able to work with them on that basis instead. So yeah, it's all about being relevant to whatever your success metric is, and that is the same across B2B and B2C.
Yeah, B2B tend to have a longer ROI and also many more people involved in the decision-making process. So I think revenue would be a bit of a stretch to get revenue closed in a 4-month period from start to finish, even at the end of your 4-month trial or whatever. I think it'd still be challenging to be able to do that. So having an alternative method of success rate is quite good. This kind of performance guarantee, is it open to people who are using or have used a CRO solution in the past, or maybe even still using a CRO solution from another vendor?
Yes, absolutely. It's open to anyone who wants to have a conversation about it, really. We see kind of, when we look at maturity, you've got those who have never tested, you've got those who have done some tested, and then you've got those who have tested everything, and experimentation processes are built into their product and engineering process itself. And kind of everyone from that point down is relevant for. If you're testing everything, then it's probably not as relevant for you, but everyone else that wants CRO to be kind of drive some revenue and have some, they need to justify the value that they put into a program. It's absolutely relevant, and that's whether you have a tool in place at the moment or whether you don't, whether you have an existing program in place or don't. And that existing program might already be performing quite well, but actually we might believe we can improve it or optimize it even. And then you might have some that have got a stagnant program and some that have no program at all. But all of those are relevant conversations, and it's a case of actually if you've got experimentation data already, that's just another data source that we can use to help refine our concepts.
Do you find those people who have already been using or are still using a CRO solution for somewhere else are easier to get on board or more difficult to get on board?
Good question. I would say if they've got a stagnant program or a program that's not driving revenue, they tend to be easier. And it's almost like another roll of the dice before they give up on CRO as a practice, which is obviously what we don't want, even just as practitioners and as experimentation evangelists. There's another term that seems to go around every now and then. But yeah, they tend to be easier. Those that are new, it's essentially the forecast has a lot of talking for it and a guarantee and for it. Those that have successful programs right now, it becomes a risk mitigation piece for them to move away. And actually we find that the sell or the bit that engages them is actually the concepts and the research that goes into it, and our methodology tends to speak to them more than the actual guarantee, because they're a bit more bought into CRO as a successful practice to make better decisions. So actually that's already a bit of a given, and they would just want to see that your methodology is up to scratch and the level of research that you do and the concepts that you come up with speak to them. So yeah, they're slightly different, whereas actually the guarantee bit is good for them as a mitigation piece to prove that we're true to our word, but it isn't really the clincher for them. It's not what they're looking for in a partner, whereas those who are less mature are probably looking for that so they can justify the cost.
So one of the buzzwords primarily last year and the year before was insourcing as opposed to outsourcing. Is the outcome of this performance guarantee that you want to continue as what I would describe as a fully managed service, or is there room for the client to actually start doing some of its own tests alongside you guys?
There's absolutely room for a client to do their own tests, and they're testing a lot alongside. I'm very much of the opinion the more experimentation you can do, the more you can learn, the better. So yeah, a good example is we've been working with a client for over 13 years, And we started with them just doing what I call standard research and testing off the back of it. Then they in-housed everything and used us more as a consultancy and to help them build. And now they've recently gone back to giving us, I'll say the keys to CRO, but we do all the experimentation for them, because when they insource, they just couldn't get the volume or the buy-in around the business. So we've seen a 3x improvement in terms of volume of experiments that they're doing, purely from them handing it to us and us being able to engage stakeholders from there. So yeah, I think the end point really is up to the client in terms of what they're trying to achieve. Some don't have ambition to in-house, in which case, yeah, absolutely fine. We will continue running programs and delivering value off the back of it. Some absolutely do want to in-house, in which case we will provide a roadmap to say, okay, when do you want to in-house? When do you want to get there? When do we think it's achievable for them? And this is how we'll do that. But we've learned through several in-housing products and placements with different teams and different companies that in-housing is unique to every company, and it looks slightly different for everyone. Everyone has their own challenges, different engineering processes, different product teams and setups from there. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So this is a good way to get started with a CRO program. And if you do want to in-house, we can help you then say, okay, well, this is the value that's driving. We can leave this program running whilst we help you embed things internally as well. But that is not a quick process itself, as anyone who's tried to in-house quickly will know that things stall very quickly and things get pushed aside.
Yeah, they do a lot of firefighting and people run to the next fire, I think, in a lot of instances anyway. So how long has this performance guarantee been available?
So I joined Fresh Egg around 1.5 years ago, and we started working on it at that point. So I'd say it's probably been available for around a year now at Fresh Egg, but we've only recently started properly publicising it.
Okay. I was just giving you an opportunity to blow your own trumpet, hopefully. So what's the percentage of those clients that you've taken on board that have continued beyond the test period? And secondly, what percentage of those have continued beyond a second year?
So to be quite candid, we wouldn't offer a guarantee if we didn't know we could hit it. Because that first 4 months, we need to go into a full-term program to even think about making any actual revenue from the client and covering our own costs. So we've not had a guarantee where we haven't hit it. So we've got 100% success rate on that guarantee.
That's a big trumpet.
That is a big trumpet. But it's one of those where when you think about it, logically it makes sense, because it costs us quite a bit of money because of the amount of resource that we put into things to actually provide that trial period of 4 months and that guarantee period. So yeah, we need to be good at what we do and hit those targets in order to do so. So yeah, we've had a great success rate, and a nice example in terms of post 1 year. We've got a client that we've got a nice case study with, actually, with Ardi, who are a US travel insurance aggregator, and they joined us on a performance guarantee for CRO, and we're now entering into the second year, but also doing SEO services, some help with email for them, and some content as well. So we tend to expand off the back of successful programs, because success breeds success, as we are able to help them hit their targets, and their targets grow for upcoming years if they've got a successful partnership and a successful relationship off the back of it, like we have with Ardi and our CRO programs. They go, okay, what else can you do to help us achieve our goals? And not all of that will sit within CRO. So it's a really nice story that, yeah, we've got a really good relationship and partnership with them and many other clients off the back of it. Another example, we've had a successful performance guarantee period, and it's just breeded more experimentations in different areas, which is great, and we're just helping again. So the success of CRO within this team to the whole company, and breed them out from there. So yeah, it's really nice to have successful guarantees, and obviously as a team and as a company we celebrate them when that target's achieved, but you don't just want to sit back and say we've hit the 4 months. It's okay, right, how do we hit the the 1 year target now for them, providing that's still what they're after. How do we hit a stretch target off the back of that? And then how do we help them as a business achieve all of their goals? Because we are a multidiscipline agency and have the ability to do that.
So Jake, that seems to have summed up things pretty well. And obviously with your success rate, it seems like it's a winner from both the client side and from your side as well, and from ours as well, as the provider of the solution behind it. So I think for now it's just a good idea to point people to your website so they can find out more about this performance guarantee and potentially get involved. If that's, is there a particular link that you could use?
Yes, exactly. freshegg.com/CRO or freshegg.co.uk, I should say, /CRO.com will redirect you anyway. Or LinkedIn, you can get in contact with myself, Jake Lambert, on LinkedIn. Very happy to have any conversations around performance guarantee and how we can help drive CRO gains through your business.
Sounds like a solution that works. So Jake, thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure we'll be eager from our perspective as well to see the continued success of this. But for now, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, John.